The sound of a healthy tractor engine is something you don't forget. It's steady, honest, like a heartbeat that belongs to the land itself. That morning, the engine hummed beneath me as golden rows of corn stretched endlessly across my property. Harvest season is sacred where I live. Every hour matters. Every pass through the field is money, sweat, and patience coming together. Which is why the last thing I expected was the scream of a luxury car horn cutting through the calm like a knife. I lifted my head and saw her. Karen, president of Willow Creek Estates HOA, owner of a spotless white SUV, self-appointed guardian of community aesthetics, and, unfortunately, my nearest neighbor. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near my harvest road. That gravel lane ran through my private farmland, land my family had owned for 3 generations before her neighborhood even existed. Yet there she was, barreling toward me like she owned the earth itself. I slowed the tractor and raised a hand, signaling for her to stop. She didn't. Instead, she rolled down her window and screamed over the engine noise. "You're blocking the access route." I frowned. Access route? The only access here was for farm equipment. The HOA had tried for years to pressure me into letting residents use my road as a shortcut to the lake. I had refused every single time. I cut the engine to speak clearly. "This is private property," I said calmly. "You need to turn around." She stepped out of her SUV wearing oversized sunglasses and a blazer that screamed, "I want to speak to the manager of agriculture." "You cannot obstruct emergency access," she snapped. "This road must remain open for residents." "There are no residents here," I replied. "Just crops." That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Karen marched forward, heels sinking into the dirt, pointing at my tractor like it had personally offended her. "This machinery is an eyesore. And it's damaging property values." I almost laughed. Cornfields damaging property values. That was a new one. "Ma'am," I said, keeping my voice steady, "please move your vehicle so I can continue harvesting." Her lips curled. "No." Then she did something I will never forget. She climbed back into her SUV, slammed the door, and, instead of reversing, she drove straight toward my tractor. At first, I thought she was bluffing. Then metal hit metal. The impact wasn't massive, but it was enough. Her front bumper scraped against the tractor's rear wheel housing with a grinding crunch that echoed across the field. The tractor rocked slightly. My stomach dropped. She had actually hit farm equipment during active harvest. I climbed down slowly, heart pounding not from fear, but from disbelief. Karen stepped out, hands on hips. "You moved into my lane," she declared. "My lane," I repeated. She gestured wildly at the dirt road. "This is shared access. I'm documenting this for the HOA board." That's when I noticed her phone recording. Perfect. I took out my own phone and began filming as well. "Ma'am," I said clearly for the recording, "you just drove into a stationary tractor on private agricultural property. Please leave immediately." Her confidence wavered for half a second, then snapped back. "I will be filing a complaint for obstruction and property damage." She turned, got back in her SUV, and attempted to drive away. Attempted. The bumper she had crumpled now scraped loudly against her tire. The vehicle lurched awkwardly, wobbling across the dirt like it had suddenly forgotten how to exist. She finally managed to move about 10 feet before stopping again. I dialed the county sheriff's office. Not angrily, not dramatically, just matter of fact. "Hi," I said, "I need an officer for a vehicle collision involving private farmland, equipment and trespassing." Karen froze inside her car. She rolled down the window again, voice suddenly sharp. "You're calling the police. Over a misunderstanding." "You hit my tractor," I replied. "During harvest. You provoked this. I asked you to leave." She slammed her door and began pacing. The next 20 minutes were quiet except for the wind moving through corn stalks and the ticking of her cooling engine. I leaned against the tractor and waited. Karen tried calling someone, likely the HOA board. Her voice carried across the field. "Yes, he's blocking access again. No, he's escalating. Yes, police are coming. This is harassment." I didn't respond. Silence is powerful when someone expects a fight. When the sheriff's cruiser finally appeared at the edge of the field, Karen waved dramatically like she was flagging down rescue after a shipwreck. 2 deputies stepped out. I handed over my documentation first. Property maps, recorded footage, and prior HOA notices attempting to claim road access. Karen interrupted repeatedly. He endangered residents. He refused lawful entry. He damaged my vehicle. One deputy examined the tractor. The other inspected her SUV. The verdict came quickly. Ma'am, the deputy said, this road is clearly marked private agricultural access. You were not authorized to drive here. Her face flushed red. He blocked me. He was operating farm equipment on his own property. But he, and your vehicle, the deputy continued calmly, struck stationary equipment. Silence. Then came the moment that made the entire exhausting situation worth enduring. Additionally, the deputy said, your vehicle is not safe to operate due to front-end damage affecting steering alignment. Karen blinked. What does that mean? It means we're calling a tow truck. The color drained from her face. You cannot tow my car. You drove illegally onto private farmland and caused a collision. The vehicle is unsafe. She sputtered, gesturing wildly at me. This is his fault. The deputy didn't even look at me. Ma'am, please step aside. The tow truck arrived 30 minutes later. The massive hook lifted her pristine white SUV, the same vehicle she had used to intimidate half the neighborhood, and raised it helplessly into the air. Karen stood in the dirt, speechless. For the first time since I'd met her, she had nothing to say. As the tow truck pulled away, one deputy handed me a case reference number. You handled this correctly, he said. If the HOA continues to pressure you about access, report it. I nodded. Harvest resumed that afternoon. The tractor engine returned to its steady rhythm, like nothing had happened. But something had changed. Word spread quickly through Willow Creek Estates. Residents learned the farmland road was not HOA territory. They learned private property meant exactly that. And Karen, she stopped coming near my fields. 2 weeks later, I received a certified letter from the HOA. Not a fine, not a warning, a formal notice acknowledging the road as private agricultural infrastructure and advising residents to avoid the area. No apology, of course. Karen's pride wouldn't allow that. But her silence said enough. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It doesn't involve shouting or grand gestures. Sometimes it's just documentation, patience, and the quiet satisfaction of watching consequences arrive on schedule. That season, the corn yield was excellent. And every time I drove past the spot where her SUV had been lifted into the air, I couldn't help smiling. Because the land doesn't care about authority titles. It respects only truth, ownership, and those who understand the difference. And that morning, for once, so did Karen.